Good afternoon, Illini fans, and it is not the episode that we really wanted to do. Michigan State picks up their third single-digit result win. They were 2-6 on the year. They are now 3-6 after beating Illinois 88-80 in the Breslin Center on this Saturday afternoon. And Sonny, what are your initial impressions of the loss? We haven't really had to do many of these kind of post games.
Yeah, I mean it's disappointing. It's another late game collapse. Same thing that we did against Nebraska. We're up, I think, 4-6 when I made a dumb tweet talking about, hey, let's close this out. Let's not do what we did against Nebraska. And guess what? That's basically we pooped our pants almost immediately after that. It's weird. I don't understand. I'm sure we're about to get into it. And before we do, there's a link in the description if you guys are interested in jumping on with Austin and I to talk about this game, to vent, because I have a feeling Austin and I are going to be doing a lot of venting here. Feel free to join us. You can find the link in the description on the YouTube. But as good of an offensive, efficient team that we are, we're top 10, top 15, essentially all year long. We go through these lulls where it's just 6, 7 minutes without a field goal. And today you kind of saw the same exact thing. And like, obviously, the fact that we don't have a point guard didn't end up being too much of a factor this year. But in the last two games, you kind of see that it is still a factor. Damask with those two turnovers at the end of the game. Uh, it's just rough. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. Like, I don't feel as bad as I would feel if I was a Badger fan right now, but it's still a disappointing loss.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this ship isn't sinking, pardon me, but there are some holes starting to develop in this ship from game to game that you notice. I've said this ad nauseum, and I'll keep on saying this. I was an Eagles fan. They were 10-1. There were still massive issues about the Philadelphia Eagles, and these issues for the Illini are popping up, and they could expose themselves in the worst parts of the year coming up in late February and early March and into the NCAA tournament. I mean, you just look at this number right here, points off of turnovers. Michigan State 13, Illinois 3, turnovers, Illinois 9, Michigan State 6. So two things. Illinois didn't take advantage of the Michigan State turnovers. And number two, they turned the ball over too many times. Marcus Domask had a couple. Quincy Guerrier had a couple. I mean, it's just brutal the way that this team kind of handled themselves toward the end of the game. And like you said, against Nebraska, I feel like if they had Andres Felice even, this team would be much, much better. They just don't have that guy that can calm everything down. Trent Frazier did the same thing whenever he was point guard of the Illini basketball team. So you just got to find that guy next year. This year, I mean, Ty Rogers has done a great job defensively, but offensively, he does lack some areas unless he's driving to the rim. I mean, that's kind of his big thing is just defense and driving, and the other little factors. That's kind of the more difficult part of what Illinois needs at the moment.
Ronnie chiming in. Illini are done. Can't win on the road. Trying for top 5 seed in tourney. They will not make it to many good games left. 4 or 5 real hard games left. They're done. First off, thanks for watching, Ronnie. I'm not sure I disagree or agree with that. It's kind of disconcerting. I know we have a good team, but our best win at this point is over FAU, who is a good team, but not necessarily a great team.
They just lost
And
to UAB in overtime last night.
right. So we're talking about, we have Purdue left on our schedule. We have a Wisconsin team who seems to be reeling. They've have 4 losses in a row right now, so they've kind of returned back to normal. There's not that many good teams left to really test ourselves against. Ronnie's correct. Like, we're struggling on the road, but we're just kind of struggling at home too. Like, it's not just a on the road or at home sort of situation. It's we're playing well. Our defense is not really playing all that well right now. Our offense is doing fine, except for, I don't know why Brad is benching Ty Rogers at the end of the game when we have a lead. The guy just plays with so much energy. I get that Luke Goody is makes the right play most of the time, but he also has some physical and athletic limitations that other teams are exposing on the offensive side. When he's playing defense, they went at Michigan State tonight every single time at the end of the game. They just went up against whoever Luke Goody was guarding. It's Curtis is chiming in. The point guard conversation is going to start getting louder if this trend continues. And I mean, yeah, it I don't know, Austin. What do you think? Or is it time to worry yet?
Uh, I mean, you worry about a guy like Luke Goody coming off the bench, where if he's not giving you 3-point baskets, all he's really giving you is rebounding. He had 5 rebounds today, but he had a very sloppy game. Some turnovers, some fouls that he probably shouldn't have went for. I mean, it just feels like he's not at his top caliber right now, and that's hurting Illinois tremendously. He had a -5, if you believe in the plus and minus stats. That wasn't the worst on the team, but I can't really blame Terrence Shannon when he was -13 because the rest of the pieces weren't really doing what they need to do to make Terrence Shannon successful as well. So I do not like the way that Illinois basketball kind of handles Terrence Shannon Jr. at times, because there are moments where he starts taking over the game, and then all of a sudden the guys play keep away from Terrence Shannon Jr. You saw that with Marcus Domask. You saw that with Luke Goody. You saw that with Coleman Hawkins at times. And I think Terrence Shannon is a guy that needs to have the ball in his hands at least once a possession. It doesn't mean he has to shoot the ball. I'm not asking him to be a ball hog. But what I am asking is just get the ball in his hands, at least make the defense think about him every single possession. When you don't, you are giving Michigan State favors. You are giving the opposition favors. And there were times like right after that drive to the lane, that mid-range jumper and that 3-pointer, Terrence Shannon Jr. didn't get a shot and felt like 3 minutes. Those kind of things have to change, especially for a team that relies on its star power of Terrence Shannon Jr. so much, even after the suspension.
And he's so close to being back. Like his athleticism, him, getting fouls, going to the rim. That's back now.
He
Where he
was 12
essentially
for 13 from the free throw line. I mean,
right.
that is more than what you want to ask for Terrence Shannon Jr. That was
Just the
incredible.
3-pointers.
What?
It's just the 3-pointers. He was
Yes.
He had a couple open shots that just rattled in and out, which unfortunately, just that's all he's missing right now. We were up, I think 6 when he missed a wide open one, and if we were able to stretch the lead to 9 at that point, you're talking about really sucking the momentum out of the crowd at that point. I'm gonna hold on. Justin Adams, a famed Nebraska fan, is chiming in with the Devils. Once again, Sonny, pull up my comment. You coward, a big fan, Justin. Justin, it's not football season. You can, we're talking grown-up basketball now. So, by the way, me and Justin are friends, so I take no offense to this. But Russ Johnson.
We needed Tominaga near the end, Justin.
Right. Russ Johnson, Purdue fan. I understood the argument, at least defensively, when he first returned, but are there any Illini fans that think they might actually be better, more rounded team without him? Not even close. I mean, I don't know, maybe Austin, you might disagree, but if this team is going to make a run to the Final Four, I think you kind of saw it for the first off, Russ, thanks for chiming in. You saw it for the first 33 minutes of the game. This team runs its best offense when they're going through their motions and Shannon gets his wide open threes and he's a terror in transition. We don't really, and Brad Underwood has said this, we don't really run plays for Terrence Shannon. Terrence Shannon is just a really good scorer who can take the ball off the dribble, who can basically find spot when the defense is kind of laxing, is kind of looking around and immediately attack the rim. That's what he brings. That kind of elevates the Illinois game. Today's game is on again, in my opinion, Brad at the end of the game, just not making substitutions. The substitutions he did make, I was happy what he was doing at the beginning of the second half with the switches. Coleman Hawkins was basically dominating every little guy that they try to put him up against. That was an adjustment. I'm like, good for you, Underwood.
Yeah.
But then again, the end of the game, it's just we weren't running anything. We didn't have a guy to kind of take control, as you were talking about, just settle things down. And I don't know.
I mean, I just don't understand why there were plays drawn up in that coffin corner area near that half court line where the out of bounds on the sideline is pretty much a defender as well. So you're limiting your movement options there, number one, and you're having a guy try to bring you closer, try to get guys closer to the ball handler right there. I mean, I just don't get what the rotation is on that particular set at all. So that's kind of alarming how it happened two times in a row, that same exact turnover, two different players, Quincy Guerrier and then Marcus Domask as well. So I just don't understand what that is and why maybe you need to have Terrence Shannon bring the ball up in those late game situations, just so he can possibly use his acceleration if there's a great mismatch right away in the half court where he can zoom by and get a quick layup going. I mean, there are all sorts of options, but whenever you're just limiting yourself to dribbling by the sideline, I just don't understand where he's going with that.
Grenville chimes in. Domask is a phenomenal player. Had a great block today too. Yeah, he did. Had 72 all. He might not turn it over too often, but when he does, it always seems to be an extremely inopportune time and costly. Yeah, I mean, I'm never going to complain about Domask. He's been our MVP all season long. We would not be sitting here in second place in the Big Ten without him kind of jumping a level once the issues with Shannon came down. But again, it's just one of those situations where, I mean, you look at how many turnovers did he have today? I can't imagine it was that many. Yeah,
Let me check.
it's
Yeah,
two. And again, you're talking about two's not a lot for a guy who handles the ball most of the game, but they're just exaggerated because it was at the end of the game and we all saw it. Uh, I don't know. He had a quiet game. I'm taking a look at the box score now. 4 for 8, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. Just a quiet Domask game, but he's still putting up numbers, and he did show up on the 3-point line today. 3 for 5. I think that's probably his best 3-point shooting game of the season, at least that I remember.
I mean, I did talk about the points off turnovers being 13-3. I think this might truly be the stat that defines this game right here. 23 fast break points for Michigan State versus only 9 for Illinois. So I think that also had a major factor in how Illinois lost this game. And then you look at points in the paint defensively. Illinois just wasn't there. 38 points for Michigan State in the paint versus 22 for Illinois. I know Illinois had the 3-point shot going more today than in other games. They were 11 for 30, but still defensively, you cannot let Malik Hall get in wherever he wants. You cannot let Hogard get wherever he wants down low. I mean, Hogard himself shot 13 free throws. Those kind of things cannot happen in Big Ten games and where Illinois wants to go in the NCAA tournament. Defensively, the pressure has to be there. Defensively, you got to make guys go to their fourth options, and that just did not happen for Illinois today. And am I worried a touch? Am I freaking out? No, because this team is still really, really talented. I think it's just putting it together again, which is kind of a weird phrase to say on February 10th. But it is kind of reminiscing of last year's team a little bit, where it's just like, are the pieces are great, but what is the final puzzle look like?
Justin chiming in again. It did take Michigan State shooting the lights off from everywhere and beating their season percentages across the board. And that's true. I mean, it's one of those. I'm trying to be careful on how I phrase this. I'm not really upset about the loss today. I'm more upset about the implications down the road. I've been pretty clear that I think that, we're not going to win the Big Ten this year. I think, we were already a game and a half behind Purdue, but coming into today, and, we have another game against them later on in the season. For me, it's just more about seeding, getting a good win against a good opponent. We weren't able to do that, but this, again, it's hard to beat Illinois because you essentially have to play a perfect offensive game. Today, Michigan State was doing that, but we were still up by 6 or 7 points with like 4 or 5 minutes left in the game. Like that showed me that, we're a very high quality team. But again, what bothers me is for the second straight game, these weird lulls where, with all due respect to Michigan State, I think we were the better team today, but we just fumbled the end of the game again.
Right.
And that's where I'm just kind of getting alarmed because we don't have that many tough games left. And so once March comes, like that Big Ten, I'm actually going to be very interested in watching the Big Ten tournament this year, because we're going to hopefully, we have a decent enough performance where we get to play one of these good teams again. Because I want to see us play against quality competition, because that's what, like, I want to get that W under our belt, build a little bit of that confidence for March.
Because I know we have Wisconsin at the end of the schedule, and I would be a little bit more excited about that Wisconsin game, but they are on a 4-game losing streak. I think their peak is behind them. You look at the schedule, there is not a lot of tough competition left. There's Maryland, who has always had Illinois' number. That's one game where potentially could lead to some problems on the road. You have Purdue at home, and that's really the tough part of the schedule. I know Minnesota is playing better. Penn State and Iowa are mid, and Michigan is not a good team at all. So it's going to have to take the Big Ten tournament to get these guys in that mindset of, you guys better put it all together, or else it's gonna lead to some problems.
Russ, thank you again for chiming in. The teams you're losing to on the road are tourney teams. No shame in that. Illini are still the second best team in the conference, with Wisconsin dropping like a rock. Yeah, I mean, I watched some of that Wisconsin game earlier today while I was kind of double screening. I was watching Newcastle as well. Wisconsin's in trouble. Like, Wisconsin's kind of turning out the team into the team that a lot of us non-Badgers fans were kind of saying that they were. A good team, but they weren't necessarily on the level of a Purdue or even Illinois, at least in my opinion. And they lost a close game to. I don't think it was that close. So they lost to Nebraska, lost to Purdue, and now they're just kind of free falling, and they've got some stuff to figure out themselves. I don't think Illinois is at that stage. I think Illinois is, comfortably in the tournament. They just have to figure out where they're going to make the adjustments come tourney time. Illinois, I feel very confident, is a 3 or 4 seed quality wise. Wisconsin, I'm not sure. I think they were playing beyond their talent level for the first couple months of the season. And now they're kind of coming back to earth, and we're kind of figuring out like at what level they truly are. Curtis chimes in, felt like Ty Rodgers should have been playing more with Goody and Quincy struggling. Completely agree with that.
Yeah, we need to talk about Quincy. I mean, I don't know what the hell is going on with him. It's got to be more than an injury at this point, because he's mentally just not there right now. There were some ill-conceived shots that were taking place by Quincy. The fouls were bad. His defense wasn't there either. I mean, right now he is borderline unplayable at this point. He had 3 points on the game, 5 rebounds, 4 personal fouls, a turnover there. I mean, in only 14 minutes of play. So there's got to be some serious come to Jesus moments with Quincy and Brad Underwood right now, because it's not working. I don't know. I think the timing would work out if you would say whenever Terrence Shannon came back, that's when Quincy's struggles kind of began, and I would buy it that he doesn't really know his place on the court right now. But you're a leader. You're an old man in the college basketball world. You should be able to figure out your role right now, regardless of the situation you're in. You've played on with different coaches. You played with different rotations of guys in your time at Oregon and Syracuse, and right now you got to figure it out. You're too old to be this discombobulated right now.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, he had some good defensive plays, that particularly in the first half, I remember. But on the offensive end, he's, as you said, basically almost completely non-existent. The first half of the season, he was shooting those side three-pointers without any hesitation, and they'd hit nothing but net, and that just kind of what made our offense so explosive. Now he's not only hesitating on taking those three-pointers, but he's just not taking them. And then he's doing kind of a fake drive where he's pretty much immediately looking to pass to somebody else. And it's his experience, it's his veteran experience that we need in come March. He's a guy that we're going to be trusting once March comes around. So I don't know if it's the injury or not. If it's lingering. Obviously, Illinois is not talking about it,
I
but
mean, I feel like if there was an injury now with the new injury reports, he would have to be listed on there if there was any sort of question that he might be out of a game. So I think that's kind of out of it right now. I think it's just bad play at the moment.
Brad chimes in again. Got to start playing Ty more down the stretch. Yeah, I mean, I love Brad, but I don't know why he doesn't put Ty Rogers in at the end of these games right now. He is. I mean, I wouldn't even say he's below average on offense anymore. I think he's graduated to the level where he's at least an average basketball player on offense, which, considering on defense he's such an A, if not an A plus, like that makes him a guy that you want on the court. It's his energy. He had 14 rebounds last game. How did he do today? 4 for 6 from the field, only 2 rebounds today, but it's energy. He's physical. You can tell the opposing teams hate playing against him. So I don't know. I'm not sure. Like, again, I know what Goody does, and Goody's very good at what he does, but we didn't need on the court what Goody is good at the end of the game, whereas we did need what Ty Rogers brings to the team.
I mean, I had to remind myself that Ty Rogers only had 2 personal fouls near the end of the game, because I just thought, oh, this is a 4 foul situation. Um, that's why they're kind of limiting his defense right now, maybe to save him for overtime or whatever the situation Brad Underwood thought. But then I looked, I was like, oh, he only has 2 fouls. And then you look at the minutes where Luke Goody played 23 minutes and Ty Rogers played 21. Yes, that's close, but it shouldn't really be that close. I think Ty Rogers is a more talented player than Luke Goody. And then Quincy Guerrier, the way he's playing, he's got to be playing way more than Quincy is, but he only had 14, so I'm glad to see that. But yeah, you need Ty Rogers out on the court near the end of the games, just to drive the lane a little bit, create some space for your shooters that you have on the court, like Coleman Hawkins, like Marcus Domask, and like Terrence Shannon Jr. So I don't really think that Brad Underwood is using him to the best of his abilities right now.
Jackson says Wisconsin may just be a 5 or a 6 seed. That very well could be it, but that's kind of what I would have guessed that they were in the preseason too. So that's what I mean when I say that I think they were kind of playing beyond their talent level at the beginning of the year. And let's be honest, they had a pretty easy schedule too. They really didn't play many tough. They had a decent non-conference, but when it came to the Big Ten, they took advantage of a schedule that wasn't particularly very hard. No different than Illinois. Don't get me wrong. Illinois is not much. I think the talent level on our team is a little higher than theirs, and if they end up being a 5 seed, I can absolutely see a scenario where they're one of the famed 5-12 upsets that happen seemingly every March.
I mean, you look at um, this game, and I think there is a guy that was extremely missed in this game, and it's very underrated. And that is Amani Hansberry was unavailable to play in this game. And the minute that you had to go to Dane Danger for those 7 minutes in that game, the tide kind of turned in the first half. And if you had another athletic, power forward esque player in there to deal with the likes of a Malik Hall, I think that would have done really well. You had had 5 more fouls in that kind of position because you can't have Dane Danger out on the court with Michigan State. He was a black hole offensively where he would just take 10 seconds off the shot clock himself. And defensively, those athletic Michigan State Spartan forwards were having their way with Dane at that moment. So I think Amani Hansberry, I didn't realize whenever I began my morning, whenever I woke up, that he might be the reason Illinois might lose this game because of his unavailability. But I think that kind of happened in that first half.
Dane's having one of the weirdest seasons I ever remember an Illinois player having. He played like 20, 25 minutes a game last year, was a prominent member of the team. You kind of thought he'd be one of our main focal points on offense this year. I still think besides Damask, talent-wise on offense, he's still probably our second best offensive player. He comes into the game and he looks okay, but then you check the box score at the end. The rest of the team is like +4, +8, +11, and you check Damask, Danger. He was on the court for 6 minutes and he was like -11. There's just something that happens that every time he steps foot on the court, our team just nosedives. I don't know if it's because him and Coleman are such different players that we play a certain style of offense and defense with Coleman on the court that when Danger replaces him, because I don't think Danger's a bad defender. He's not god awful. And for me, it's these numbers just don't make sense. But but I can't be mad at him because he's gone from 25 minutes a game to playing 5 to some games playing 2 minutes, but you don't hear him complaining. He's still
Right.
smiling on the bench. He's still he's being a good teammate. So it's like not it's one thing if he's sulking and you're just like, man up, man, come on, start producing. But no, like he's being a good teammate. I don't know. I'm still waiting for that Dane game. I just don't know if it's going to happen, if stylistically this team is built for him. But it's funny. I think he would be starting on at least half the teams in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, you look at the next few matchups, maybe against Penn State, maybe against Michigan. That can be a Dane game, but other than that, I feel like he's going to be pretty useless with how these other Big Ten teams like to play. I mean, maybe you get 5 fouls out of him against Purdue with Zach Edey, but there's really just not a lot of opportunities for Dane to really showcase his skills right now, and it's sad to see. But I definitely understand why Brad Underwood is very hesitant to use him. I mean, you saw it in today's game where defensively he just brought 0 to the mix today. So I think that's kind of the situation here. And defensively, just you needed more from your power forwards and your forwards. I think that was the crucial mismatch of today's game was the likes of Hogard and Malik Hall really doing whatever they wanted down low, and Illinois not really having an opportunity to do much about it.
Justin saying he likes to stream. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Again, we're trying to do this a little bit more often, at least post game. This is kind of my flu game. I've been kind of ill all day, and my plan, I joked around about it earlier, was we were planning on a live stream after the game, but we weren't sure. I don't know what kind of mood I would have been in. If we lost, then I'm like, maybe I'd be sulking. I wouldn't want to come on, but here we are manning up. But again, feel free. We have a decent amount of people watching, which thank you for doing so. If you want to join the conversation, we've been having comments all stream long. There's a link in the description if you want to get on video. You don't have to get on video. You don't have to show your face, but Austin and I are getting to know the community. Just want to talk Illini basketball. Austin, let me ask you.
Or just have a beer with Sunny and I.
Yes, coffee for me because I'm trying to stay awake. But what are we drinking? I'm curious now.
Yingling Flight.
Okay.
Can't get in Illinois too easily, but go across the border into Cape Girardeau, Missouri for me, and I grab it.
Very nice. So, Austin, are you worried or not?
I tell myself that I'm not worried, but then every time I discuss this team, I give myself more worries than I initially thought. I think it's one of those situations where you're happy with the results when they win, and you kind of blind yourselves to the issues on hand. But then the losses, you're just like, I knew about these, but I didn't really confront those too terribly much because I was pretty happy with the results. And I think this is a situation where Illinois needs to look themselves in the eyes. I mean, and say, hey, are we going to be a better defensive team? Are we going to turn the ball over? Brad Underwood and his staff need to look at themselves and say, hey, what rotations are we going to have near the end of the game? And I think that kind of mix of conversations has been happening because obviously they will, because they're paid a lot of money, both players and coaches at this point, to figure these situations out. So if I were to rank my worry out of a 10, like 1 being no, not worried at all, Final Four, let's go, to 10, oh my God, we might lose to Yale in the first round. I think I might be at like a 3.75, where I think there is a second weekend for this Illinois basketball program, but it's just not clicking the way you want it to. Like, you watch UConn play. They've won 11 straight games. They are a powerhouse. They never let a team back into the game. Like, I've never watched Sports Center at the end of the night and being like, oh my God, UConn had like a 3-point game. It's like, no, UConn smashes their opponents. They end up winning by 8 to 10 and more every Big East game. And I look at Illinois, I'm like, where's the blowouts happening? Where is the, we're going to step on your throat and you won't be able to get up at all, and we're going to waltz to a victory and just crown us a top 10 team right now? That has not happened. I know Michigan State is a borderline tournament team, and Illinois might have given them their golden ticket for the NCAA tournament, because if they lost, there would be no quad one opportunities left for Michigan State. So I am disappointed that we didn't be the Grim Reaper for Tom Izzo today. But again, overall, I am a little worried in terms of the performance level game to game, but I still think there's a great opportunity for this Illinois basketball program. It's just got to being able to put it all together.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's we have one of our commenters, Justin. Justin, thanks for joining the show.
What's up, fellas? How we doing? How's my volume?
How's it going?
You're good. You're good.
Oh.
You're good.
What's up, man?
Justin, did you watch the game, or are you just going to chime in on our show so far?
No, I watched the second half. I kind of checked in after the first half, but I was busy. But this was just a prime example of the wheels falling off at the worst time. That cluster at the end, and that was like the death knell. Other than that, like kind of like you said, I think y'all are more apt to hit your shots late in the game just because you're more of an experienced team in terms of just being competitive, especially this year. But the road is so tough, man. And Michigan State, the foul call, the phantom foul call, whatever, and there it went both ways. But that right there, I thought maybe was going to throw Michigan State off, because I thought, they were, of course, upset about it and all that other stuff. But for some reason, it lit a fire under them. And y'all's offense, like y'all said, they just couldn't have any. There was nobody who can come out and close the game and hit shots. And it just seems like everything was out of sorts. And then once that happens, and they were getting on runs and fouls were called, everything just continues to kind of snowball from there. And it was too late in the game to recover. So that's the Big Ten on the road, man. It's been so tough all season. But
Exactly. I mean, that's, I kind of I've repeated this a couple times on the show so far. Like, I'm not upset at this particular loss.
yeah,
Michigan State, I think, they're ranked number 24 in the, like, I don't know, KenPom or one of those rankings. They're a good team. We're playing them in their arena. And for the better part of that game, we were playing well.
yeah,
It's just the last 5-6 minutes, which, again, Justin, you being a Nebraska fan, you kind of saw the same thing happen when we played you guys the game before.
yep.
We were up 7 points or something like that. 10 points, I think, with like 3 or 4 minutes left.
Y'all got up, and I thought the game was over at that point. It took us kind of like a miracle run at the end to sneak back and tie that.
Yeah. So now it's an issue. Once an accident can happen, but once it happens twice in a row, now it's something that's going to be not only in the back of our minds when we're watching a game, but this has got to be something that the players on the court are going to be thinking about next time. I'm not Austin. You said you have our schedule up. I forget who we play next.
Yes, we play Michigan on February 13th, who Nebraska plays tonight at 5:30.
Okay, Michigan. Okay, so hopefully, I mean, we better not lose to Michigan. Like, if there's one thing I'm proud of, is our streak over Juwan Howard. So if we somehow lose to Michigan, I'm officially worried. Oh, that game's at home too, isn't it? Because we played in. Yeah. So
I saw somebody say Juwan Howard's the Scott Frost of basketball.
I think I saw that. Jackson, also a good friend of the show, chiming in with that gem earlier today. Yeah, I think Brad Underwood is something like 7-0 or 8-0 against Juwan in his career. But
I mean, there have only been 2 to 3 games since the Northwestern game that opened up the long stretch of Big Ten play for Illinois, where they really just stuck it to their opponent. There was Northwestern 96-66. There was Rutgers 86-63. Michigan 88-73, and Ohio State 87-75. The rest have just been brutally close stretches for the Illini where they just went on extreme offensive droughts. And that's the worrisome part of me. It's just the process of these long droughts, and there hasn't been a huge infrastructure change by Brad Underwood to change things offensively.
One question. You mind if I ask a question? So I did see somewhere that the defensive rating for this game for y'all was 130, but do you think the defensive rating, do you think that has more to do, since I didn't watch the whole game, do you think that has more to do with the fact that, y'all had a lot of turnovers in comparison to Michigan State, or more turnovers, and they were kind of getting on runouts and fast breaks and stuff like that, especially towards the end? Do you think that kind of inflated the total a little bit, and maybe y'all's defense isn't as, I guess, spotty as it may seem, or do y'all think there's a serious issue with the defense? Again, 130 on the road, that's not going to get it done. But what do you think that's more so of?
Awesome.
That's a good question. I think half court defensive wise, the longer the shot clock goes on, the more struggles that Illinois has. Because it definitely feels like early on in the shot clock, if a team gets up a quick shot, the athleticism of like a Coleman Hawkins or a Terrence Shannon Jr. is going to impact the shot a little bit more.
Yeah.
I feel like if the longer it goes on, the more time that there's going to be defensive mismatches that take place, and they just can't figure those kind of things out. And then you get some great layup or in a wide open 3-pointer. So I think that's kind of the issue there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I wonder what that rating was with 5 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because I just saw the tweet a little bit ago, and that was my thing, because I feel like that might have been just inflated there at the end on that run.
Yeah, at the end, like, it's just we did not make a single stop.
They were hitting all their free throws.
They're hitting their free throws, and basically whoever Goody was guarding, they just attacked him, and it's just disappointing loss. It's not a tragic loss. I'm not, wondering where the season's going to go or anything. I guess, the question I gave to you, Austin, right before Justin hopped on about how worried I am. I'm not. I'm not any more or less worried than I was coming into the season. Like this, our team, where our edge is where we're nervous is what happens when March comes around.
Mhm.
And that's again where we're at right now. I still think we are the second best team in the conference, and that's something I've been kind of saying all season long. Michigan, a loss to Michigan State at Michigan State is not a bad loss. They were
Right.
preseason number 2. Yeah, they've struggled coming out of the gate, but they're 12-2, I think, at home now. They're 13-2 at home. They play
Yeah.
well. They've been playing well overall lately. You know, it's they're a good team. Let's just put it there. For me, it's a simple matter of, and I think the Java men talked about it. I don't know if it was a tweet or something a little while back. The regular season now is for me to see if Brad makes the adjustments that are being needed mid game, and at least the last 2 games, he really hasn't, and some have kind of baffled me. And if that's going to happen, well, guess what? Now, round of 32 game, if it's a close game at the end, that nervous factor for me is going to be raised a bit.
Yep, that's and I think another factor is the reason it hurts is because the fact is, when you're battling for first place, you have to hear it from other fan bases too, and that always adds a little extra emphasis on the sting there, especially on a Big Ten basketball day like today, where everybody's just kind of watching Big Ten basketball day. Yeah,
I don't know who watches more Illinois games, Illinois fans or Purdue fans.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
because they are.
Also, I don't know who watches more Purdue games, Purdue fans.
Yeah, these fan bases just go at it. Like for me, the way Twitter works now, it's like I'm not even following these Purdue accounts, but once the algorithm hits,
yeah,
all these Purdue Boilermakers, fan accounts are popping up in my timeline. It's like I don't want to see this right now. So yeah, you're right. And Illinois, let's be honest, Austin and I have talked about this all the time. We're an easily triggerable fan base. And so people know that if you want to build your impressions, get a lot of clicks, make a comment about Illinois, and we'll jump in your mentions and respond. And
I'm that guy that will go search the team's name on Twitter and just reply to random people talking draft. That might be where that starts. But all right, well, I'll let y'all get back on with the rest of your show. Appreciate y'all letting me hop on, and everybody leave a like on the stream. So
appreciate you, Justin.
Of course, appreciate y'all, man. Have a good one.
Just a reminder, Illinois lost 88-80 if you're just joining us to Michigan State from the Breslin Center in East Lansing, Michigan. And we're just trying to figure out where to go from here in terms of the Illini basketball season. Not like that there's anything wrong, just what are those minor fixes that need to take place for Illinois to get to where Sonny and I and the rest of the Illini fans expect them to be, and that's the second weekend or beyond for this Illini basketball program. But Sonny, I will ask you this one: what is one player that you want to see more out of that can really change things for the better for Illinois basketball?
I mean, I think we already discussed this. Like, if Quincy is playing like Quincy was at the beginning of the year, this is absolutely a Final Four team. That team would battle. That team would beat Purdue 3 or 4 times out of 10. Like they'd put up and make Purdue sweat. It's hard for me to really count on the other guys. I feel like everyone's playing to what their levels are. I'm very happy with the way Ty's been playing. Domask has obviously been our best player. Shannon seems to be getting better every single game. All he's missing now at this point is, just drilling those wide open 3-pointers. Harmon struggled again a little bit today. He has his on and off games. in particular on the defense.
Justin Harmon, 7 points in 25 minutes, 3 for 5 field goals, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, and 2 fouls and 2 turnovers.
Do you have his
So you
plus minus on you or no?
yes, he was a firm 0.
Okay. Yeah.
So nothing you can really glean from his plus
Right.
minus, but yeah, I mean that's kind of where you want to see again Ty Rodgers play a little bit more. Like, why was Justin Harmon playing 25 minutes compared to Ty Rodgers 21 when defense was the name of the game, especially to a team that doesn't allow 88 points too terribly often. So I think that was a misstep by Brown Underwood in his rotation building for today. And when the bullets started flying with the fouls, I think you needed Ty Rodgers' defense in there a lot more than Justin Harmon's offense.
Yep. Brad mentioning our defense is bad. Yeah, I mentioned it before. Basically, since the calendar turned into January, we're not playing as well defensively as we were before. I was hoping the return of Shannon would kind of elevate that. That's kind of what I used as an excuse for a while. But a team with Coleman Hawkins, Ty Rodgers, and Terrence Shannon being 3 of your 5 players on the court, you should have a very good defensive team.
I mean, all 3 of them have looked like a defensive player of the year at one point this season. Earlier on, like near the Missouri era of Illinois basketball season, it was Terrence Shannon where you were like, man, this guy, wow. Ty Rodgers has his moments. And then Coleman Hawkins near the end looked extremely like a Big Ten defensive player of the year at one point. So when those 3 guys are clicking, this defense should be just locked in, spot on. Nothing is going to get through those guys, and so far that hasn't happened.
Yeah. Again, the frustrating part is that we know Underwood's going to go into this press conference, and people are going to ask him why wasn't Ty in the game, and he's not really going to give us an answer. I'm not sure what his reasoning is. Let's see. Brad once again chiming in. Coleman said he got a T for saying boom towards a fan. Yeah, what a weak technical that was.
Yeah, the technical situation, like, I hate when a ref automatically give us a technical for a guy looking at the bench, like what happened with the Michigan State player. But at the same time, I hated the one that Coleman Hawkins got too, because I mean, you're saying boom to a fan who is saying all sorts of junk throughout the entire game. You can't say one single word after a great shot that he made. I mean, that was an awfully quick technical foul. If you want to talk to him during the timeout and say, hey, Coleman, we don't really talk to the fans at all, so just stay within the confines of the court, celebrate with your team after a great 3-pointer, that's great. But don't give the automatic technical there. I mean, that's ref 101. Explain and don't make yourself into the story. Don't make yourself into the game. And I felt the refs were very, very weird today. Where they were overly physical at one point, but yet that one call against the Michigan State player on Coleman Hawkins, where he literally just did a graze and then it was like, foul. Right. Like, I thought that was so strange. Like, as a referee, I thought this was one of the worst ref games I've seen in the Big Ten, and that's saying something with how bad it's been this year. Strictly because of the flow of the game. Like, there was zero flow in that first half at all.
Yeah, it's let the kids have fun. Like, this is college. Of course, let them have fun. It's and again, I'm not just complaining about the Coleman ones. It was Akins, I think, who was the guy who had the 3-pointer. It's turns around, looks at the bench or looks at the crowd. That's fine. If someone goes out into the crowd and slaps someone, I get it. But if you don't like it, like you said, Austin, give them a warning. Be like, hey, Coleman, cut that out. At least Coleman has been warned. And then if he decides to act upon that afterwards, that's on him.
Absolutely. I mean, you see it in the NBA all the time where an NBA player is mic'd up and it says, you hear the ref say, "Hey, Kevin Durant, you're using the arm a little too much in the paint. Don't do that again." And then next time down the court, whoop, arm, then foul. Okay, but especially a technical in that situation early on in the game, it's not like it was 5 minutes left in the second half where emotions are at like such a huge level where something bad could just legitimately happen. There, it was early on in the game, a 3-point shot made. Turn around to a fan, say something. I mean, come on, what are we doing here? If fans and athletes can't really interact in that sort of sophomoric way. I mean, come on, it's fun. It's the competition. It's entertainment. I don't think that should have been a technical foul. Did it cost Illinois the game? Obviously not. There was way too many issues for Illinois other than officiating, but still, come on, refs.
Yeah, Curtis. Not an excuse, but Michigan State was plus 14 on free throws with 8 more made. I texted some buddies at the 15-minute mark in the second half and said, the refs are not going to let the Illini win. Yeah, it's funny, and I say this jokingly, but I'm not really joking. Like, there's no game in the Big Ten you can watch where you're not seeing people chime in on the refs, particularly this year. I think it all started with, Edie. Like basically, whether it's Illinois fans or a lot of fans of other teams insisting that Edie has a special way that he's called compared to everyone else. And so refereeing in general in the conference has kind of been magnified. But now everyone's just watching their own games. And again, we can be watching the same exact game, whether it's right now on our timeline, there's a lot of Michigan State fans saying, "I can't believe Illinois got all the calls." There's
Yeah.
there's plenty on the Illinois side saying, "Oh, the ref missed this call, they missed this goaltend, this and that," and it just happens for every single game in the same game by both teams. So it's just, I don't know what to do. I don't know what we can do moving forward, but yeah. Granted, there were some purposeful fouls at the end. My timeline is also full of Purdue and Nebraska fans. Yeah, I don't know. Since Elon's took over, he's got, it's not really a follow. Your timeline's not just people that you follow. It's it's people who you're going to get you riled up, I think, and that's going to keep you on the website. So that's I definitely agree. Austin, who's your player of the game?
Player of the game, I've got to give it to Malik Hall of Michigan State. He was absolutely phenomenal today. He had 22 points. He had 5 rebounds as well, and he was 7 for 9 from the field goal range and 7 for 9 from free throws. So I've got to give it to Malik Hall with a close second to AJ Hogard.
Yeah, I think Hall's the easy answer there, in particular at the end. When Michigan State was coming back and then basically took the lead, he had a couple of and ones. He was making his free throws, and so I think he was the best player on the court today. But special mention to Terrence Shannon. He didn't have a great shooting night, 7 for 19, but like you said, 12 for 13 on free throws. He got a lot of, no means no from the student sections, which, it's going to happen for the rest of the season, whether we like it or not. And he didn't really let that bother him. 12 for 13 kind of shuts them up. He had that one play, I think it was in the first half, where he had to launch a 3-pointer with the shot clock about to expire. I think it was like 4 or 5 feet behind the 3-point line, and it went in. So, there's not much more he could have done. And at least from the Illini side, I think he's the clear-cut player of the game.
Sonny, it's been a intriguing episode of the Illini Cast. Not really the best, I would say, since Illinois lost, but it was still a great conversation about this Illini team, where they're moving forward, and what changes need to be made. So thank you for joining the Illini Cast, all of you that have listened and watched live. And this will be up on YouTube, and then we'll tweet out the link if you missed any of the show in the live portion. So, Sonny, thank you for joining me. This has been an episode of the